What's up, you guys? Thank you so much for joining me today on the meditation channel. Welcome to any new viewers. Hi, how's it going? If you would like to support the channel, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps. I don't know why I said it like that. Let's just go with it, okay? I'm not going to stop the camera because I just recorded and it didn't record. So, hi guys. So, oh my gosh, what has been happening? So I really wanted to take some time today just to sit down with you, have a chat, check in, how you doing? I know it's very intense at the moment because of the election. Some people are thrilled and excited about the results, and other people are traumatized and freaking out and don't know what to do. So I thought we would sit down, have a chat about this, and essentially wanted to give you also some tips and tricks on how to handle the situation, because I am sure a lot of you are very confused. So the first thing that I want to say is that this is a time of reflection. This is a time of sitting back and watching, okay? This is not a time of action. This is not a time of impulse, knee-jerk reacting, okay? Because for those of you who are disappointed, it's natural that you want to speak up, that you're trying to essentially understand what happened. And so, of course, your initial reaction is to probably go online, post yourself crying or asking questions. Some of you are even getting really angry and just going off at everybody else. And I'm sure a lot of you have been very shocked by the results. And so it's just a lot to process for some of you. And those of you who are happy, who are excited about the results and are celebrating, please do celebrate, but also just be a little bit more compassionate. This is not the time to go out to people and say, haha, I told you so. This is a time to just let people deal with it. You won. Embrace the win, celebrate with the people that are supportive, and just let the others just, grieve and go through what they need to go through. It's not a time to show off and essentially say, hey, I'm right and you're wrong kind of thing. And, it's just a lot for everyone right now. And there's a lot of changes happening energetically. And essentially, the reason why I also wanted to talk about this topic today is because I noticed that there was a bit of a phenomena happening within the spiritual community. A lot of people wanted to know the results. And personally, I was not surprised, to be quite honest, at all that was the win. That's what I personally predicted. But I did notice that a lot of psychics and a lot of channelers essentially said that Kamala would win. And I wanted to hop on here and just basically connect with you spiritual people who maybe really did put all your hopes and your beliefs into what these people said. And now, of course, you're either just freaking out, you're very confused, and you're like, what the hell is going on? So I have an answer for that, to be quite honest. So first and foremost, I just want to talk about psychics and channelers. Okay, so when someone is a psychic or a channeler, essentially they're receiving information from another dimension, from somewhere else, and they're interpreting that information. Now, the problem with that is that sometimes the information isn't always very clear. And unfortunately, we are very much in a physical world, in a dense world. So even though we may be receiving the information, it's not always very clear as day as people think. I channel information when I give readings, and sometimes I'm not quite sure. And so I make it a point to let my clients know, hey, I'm a bit confused right now. I'm just going to keep going until I get a clear message through, because I don't personally want to give the wrong information. As a psychic, as a channeler, you're put in a position of power. And oftentimes people look at you as somebody who has the answers, somebody who is, has something that you don't have, right? So the truth of the matter is guys, that these psychics, these channelers are people. They're going to do mistakes. They're not always going to interpret the information clearly. But what I found very interesting was the phenomena of multiple psychics and multiple channelers receiving the same information. And my theory behind that ultimately is projection. Now, I will talk a little bit about that because it's something that I had to learn early on in my developing my skills. And I've done a couple of mistakes myself, and ever since then, I kind of learned the lesson pretty quickly. Luckily, it wasn't too bad of a repercussion, the lesson, but for some, it can really be. Now, I'll give you an example. I've watched Bashar, and by the way, for those of you who love Bashar, I love Bashar. I love his teachings. I love his energy. I love the way he does his thing. It's great. But when it came to the election, he got that question, and I did see a video where he said if the woman was elected, good things basically would happen, and if the man was elected, then World War III would happen. Hey everyone, brief interruption because I need to fact check myself. Yep, apparently I got the wrong information, and so I wanted to show you the actual video itself. Here you go.
And before you answer, think carefully about what that means. Are you willing to take responsibility for what we are about to say? Be sure the answer is yes.
Yes.
All right. This is what we are allowed to say. The female will lead to open contact. The male will lead to the termination of the United States and World War III.
Okay, so Bashar, apologies, mate. Totally misunderstood. Obviously, it was very confusing. Still, you were being still cryptic, but yeah, he obviously delivered it with professionalism as far as I can tell. And thank you so much. I apologize again. Now back to the video. So immediately I was just, to be quite honest, shocked that I heard him say that. And I didn't feel like it was a true message. It was a clear message. Now, I can't remember the guy that channels Bashar, so sorry. I really like him. I think he's well-intended. He's a very nice person from what I can see. And I mean, I guess he was just delivering what maybe he heard. I don't know. I'm not him. But I did see a few more psychics kind of come up with similar things. And essentially what I mean by projection is because at the end of the day, we're human beings living in a physical body. Sometimes our ego gets involved. And if it's very subconscious beliefs, very subconscious programming, we may not even be aware of the fact that we're doing this. And sometimes we're projecting our own beliefs, our own desires, our own intention into the reading. And again, I don't feel like people are doing this intentionally. I think their intention may be of the highest and the purest, but again, you know, a lot of these people don't have teachers who teach them how to do a reading sometimes or how to really channel. I mean, personally, I learned all this on my own for the most part. And how we learn sometimes is by doing mistakes, unfortunately. So essentially, this is what I believe what happened. A lot of these psychics and a lot of these channelers essentially projected their own beliefs and their own desires onto the reading. Now, when I tried to tune into what was going on, I knew that Trump would win. And the reason for that is because I really stood in the middle. I was not trying to take a political stance, although of course I have my opinions. But at the end of the day, when you remove yourself from a situation emotionally, you do your best to be self-aware of your ego, of your beliefs, of your background, of your programming, of the programming of the outside world, social media. When you really sit back and just watch people, watch what's going on, I noticed this massive shift, this enormous shift of people just change their minds, and a lot of people waking up and a lot of people going to sleep in a way, you know. So again, I'm not saying it was right or wrong, and that's not what this video is about, but what I'm saying is I noticed this massive shift. And I noticed also just watching the parties, like personally, I felt like the right side did a lot of work by going out to colleges, by talking to people. They were a lot more willing to have an open conversation, whereas the left side was less willing to do that, which I knew was also going to cause a bit of a problem. Anyway, but the point was that I realized this shift and I was not surprised at all. And of course, I'm not affected by it as much as I'd say so many of you out there. But when it comes to a psychic and a channeler, you take that word as the gospel. You take that word as God. And I cannot imagine now some of the people who are followers of Bashar, for instance, who are now having to process what just happened. Now, we'll find out if he's right or not, I guess, you know, and I hope you're not. Sorry, Bashar, but I really hope you're not. But at the same time, delivering this kind of information to people, some people really just take it for what it is. And they don't realize that at the end of the day, you got to take this information with a grain of salt. These people are doing their best to receive information, to interpret this information, but sometimes we give the wrong information. Now, I'll give you an example of the two events that happened to me when I learned this lesson. So believe it or not, I started reading tarot cards at the age of 10. I know, it's crazy. I was so young. I took my cards to school and I gave a reading to a teacher. Now, you gotta understand, I'm doing this from the point of view of a 10-year-old. And I knew that my teacher was going to have a baby. And in the cards, I knew it was going to be a boy. But I projected my opinion, my desires, my fears onto the reading. And I told her that she was going to have a girl. Of course, months later, she ends up having a boy. And I never forgot that because I was like, I knew it was a boy and I said it was a girl. And so essentially what can happen is that we can doubt ourselves. Some kind of negative programming can creep in, can kind of muffle the frequency, okay? Now, the second time it happened, it was because of my ego again. And I was on set and I was working on a TV show, and my colleague came in and he was like, oh my God, I just auditioned for this big thing and I really, 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 really want the role. And I, of course, decided to brag about my gifts. It's many years ago, guys. And I was like, yeah, I can channel energy and stuff like that. And he was like, really? Can you tell me whether I got it or not? And I knew he didn't get it. And I, of course, wanted to be liked, wanted to be accepted. And then, of course, there's that other creeping thought, which is like, what if I'm wrong? And so I told him, I was like, oh, yeah, you totally got it. I was like, yeah, of course he didn't get it. So you put people's hopes up and then you let them down, you see, and that's not the best way to do things, obviously. And again, we're people, we're going to do mistakes. We are very connected to this planet, you guys. We're very plugged in and tuned in to this reality, as well as something beyond, but we're more connected to this world, which means we're a lot more connected to our ego. And it is very easy to slip up sometimes. Now, the other thing that I've noticed about the spiritual community, the other reason why this happened, I think it's because a lot of spiritual people are very tuned into this need, this addiction almost to positivity. Now, listen, I'm all about positivity, like be positive, but I'm also very much a realist. And I've noticed in the spiritual community, I've been teaching these meditation classes, and I went to this spiritual gathering, and I went to say hi to a lady, and she just like looked at me and freaked out. And it's because as a spiritual person, you would think that I have this like white aura and this like uplifting energy, and my energy is pretty intense, and I wouldn't say it's dark, but I would say it's intense. And the reason for that is because I'm very connected to the shadow. I'm very connected to the positive and the negative, and I'm not afraid of either one. But for somebody who is very much trying to stay in that positive, high frequency, high energy, which again, there's nothing, frequency and energy, by the way, are two different things, but that high energy is probably a better word for it. When they meet somebody like me, they think I'm dangerous. So I would say it's the other way around, to be quite honest, because if you're in denial and if you're just wanting to look at one thing and not seeing the reality of what's happening, what ends up happening is that ends up festering. And you let me know if I'm wrong here, but how many of you have known people who are like super positive and super joyful and everything is great, and they have a lot of secrets, and they have a lot of bad things happen that they never talk about, and sometimes they have even big tragedies happen in their lives? And not to say that that couldn't happen to me, obviously, but I've noticed that this is a theme with that extreme positivity. And again, it's a difference between being extremely positive and being conscious of the negativity and including it and just saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, no thank you, as opposed to, no, that doesn't exist, come up here, be happy, smile. Very different energies, okay? So I think, to be quite honest, a lot of these psychics and these channelers, again, maybe were very much in tune to the high energy. I shouldn't say frequency because it's a different thing. High energy. And they kind of latched onto that and wanted it to be something. But like I said, there's a lot of shifts happening, guys. The consciousness is shifting. There's big changes happening, and essentially we collectively chose this, whether you like it or not. I know it's hard for some of you to accept that, but we did. And we got to remember that there's a lot of things happening in the subconscious mind that we're just so not aware of. And this is why also I'm very much an advocate of doing shadow work. Obviously do it with somebody who has some experience, or at least just observing. Try to be neutral. Try to do your best to understand why somebody would think the way that they do, and not to demonize them, not to make them evil or bad. And trust me, I have my things that I'm still working on. You know, I still feel like that sometimes with some people. And not to say that there isn't evil or bad out in this world, but for the majority of these people, they don't mean bad. Their intention is actually possibly more likely to be a good thing, even though if you're from the left, you're not going to see that. So I want you guys to just take this time to embrace the winter, embrace the time to go within, to really do your utmost to process what's going on, and to empower yourself by becoming the observer and by detaching yourself. And I'm not saying don't feel anything, don't care. I'm saying detaching yourself by seeing things from the higher picture. We're very much involved in this physical world. We feel the energy of people in pain. And of course, it's just very easy for us to get involved. But if we can just step back and really just see things for what they are and not project our own opinions, not project our desires and our fears and our programming onto other people and situations, then sometimes we'd be surprised at what we find and what we see. And so I'm just really encouraging you guys, for those of you who are suffering right now, my heart is with you. And for those of you celebrating, congratulations. Like I said, I see both points, but I really want you guys to support each other. This is a time of unity. This is a time of coming together. There's a huge opportunity right now for change, and change sucks. Okay, it's not always a comfortable place to be in. Change requires growth, and growth requires stretching out, and stretching out requires suffering sometimes. Now, it doesn't have to be that painful. It's just oftentimes we make it a lot more painful because we resist change. We don't want things to change. We don't accept the reality of the situation, and that causes a lot more friction and a lot more pain. So again, I encourage you guys to sit back, observe, and process. So once you find that that tension has been released within you, then maybe you can start saying things or understanding by connecting with other people, because I'm sure many of you have been very shocked by the results and very shocked by the fact that probably there's a lot of people close to you who voted against your own beliefs. And it feels like a personal attack, and I understand that. But again, if you can step back and really open up that conversation over time, when you're not in pain, when you're not suffering, hopefully you can find some kind of resolution, some kind of peace, and hopefully some kind of unity. Because that's really the key to healing, guys. So, all right, guys. Well, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And were you influenced by a psychic or a channeler who told you that the results were going to go one way and then you discovered it was the other way, and how did that affect you? And yeah, that's it, guys. So have a magical day and take care of each other.